Hello and welcome. This video has top comments about Joe Rogan and polar bears. Included are interesting facts from Wikipedia. I wanted to share information about him at the same time as a popular topic he covered on his podcast. Anytime you see a Joe Rogan video about bears, sharks, or crocs, you know it's going to be a good one. I love Joe Rogan podcast because it's like a stoner conversation, but an intelligent one with fact-checking and interesting random subject matter. Joe Rogan being impressed by wild animals is always entertaining. My parents used to know a guy who got eaten by a polar bear in Russia. He was the only survivor from an avalanche that took the lives of 12. He was the leader of this expedition and chose a poor placement for the camp. During the night, the avalanche came down, killing everyone except him. He survived because he had a pocket of air. Got eaten by a polar bear 20 years later. When I lived in Alaska and my dad worked for ARCO, he sometimes couldn't leave the office because a polar bear was outside. My uncle was a professional big game hunter in the 1970s. He shot a polar bear that was almost 14 foot tall. It took 6 bullets before it stopped trying to get up. I've been way up north on Baffin Island. The city has polar bear alarms, like really loud sirens that sound when a polar bear is spotted in the area, and everyone has to go inside as quickly as possible and stay there until the polar bear vacates the area. With polar bears, it's not like black bears or grizzly bears where they will either fear you or be kind of curious about you or will maul you in order to defend cubs or territory. Polar bears will straight up predatorily kill you and eat you. You are on the menu for them. My dad grew up in a fishing village in northern Canada. They had to put their babies with the coat unzipped in the sun outside the house to get UV so they didn't get vitamin D deficient. My grandma was doing dishes and looked out and saw a polar bear coming for her baby. She grabbed him and the polar bear stayed outside her house for 8 hours until someone came by and saw the polar bear and got other villagers to run it off. My cousin was being attacked by a bear, but then the bear got all depressed and moody and just wandered off. Turns out it was a bipolar bear. I work at the zoo in Alaska, and a guest once told me a story about growing up in a tiny village near Nome, Alaska. She said they had a lot of polar bears near their village, and the bears would hide and observe the villagers to learn their behaviors so they could hunt and eat them. When she was in school, the older boys would go to the homes of the younger children and walk them to school while carrying rifles. When they got to class, they gave the teacher the gun. She would put it in behind her desk and return it at the end of the day so the older boys could walk the little kids back home. My Greenlandic buddy once told me that when you're out on the big icy plains, the thing that scares you the most will be 3 small black dots that you can just make out in the distance with your binoculars. That's the black nose and 2 black eyes of a polar bear hunting you, gradually closing in. Used to work with a guy who worked on the north slope of Alaska. He told me how they used to work in teams and one person's job was to look out for polar bears. Basically anything they see that moves, the bears consider potential food. A friend of mine was a United States Air Force radar tech stationed at Point Barrow. They had a dog that got out while polar bears were outside. He said that bear hooked the dog and tore it in half and ate it in 2 chomps. My high school music teacher was ex-military. He was on some exercise and a polar bear started coming for him. He shot it in the head with a shotgun, but it was still coming. He shot it in the head again, but it was still coming, and pissed off. He managed to get one more headshot, but the bear got one swipe in. Just one swipe after 3 headshots. My music teacher got some big ugly scars running over one side of his face, and when he started getting irritated, one eye would start rapidly blinking. He showed us pics of the bear. It was a legit story. Reminds me of the joke where 2 men see a grizzly bear coming at them, and the first starts putting on his tennis shoes. The second guy says, "What are you doing? You cannot outrun a grizzly bear." The first guy says, "I know. I only have to outrun you." If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Also, leave your comments below. Thank you for watching.